Hey, quick question. Have you ever felt like there's more to reality than what your eyes can see?
Like there's this hidden layer underneath everything, just waiting to be noticed? Yeah, today we're diving straight into that.
We're talking about the third eye. Not just a cool metaphor, not just ancient mysticism. We're talking real experiences, ancient traditions, and modern science.
This journey gets deep fast because there's a tiny part of your brain, the pineal gland, that some say is the physical key to unlocking unseen dimensions of perception.
Yup, a real gland, pea-sized, sitting right in the middle of your brain. Descartes even called it the seat of the soul.
That alone should make you go, wait, what?
Welcome to the Quantum Soul Deep Dive.
We're about to embark on a journey really into one of the most, mysterious and debated concepts out there.
Absolutely. We're talking about the third eye.
Exactly. It's a phrase that, it conjures up all sorts of images, hidden knowledge, maybe expanded consciousness, seeing beyond our regular five senses.
Yeah, is it just a metaphor? A myth? Or is there something maybe deeper going on?
That's what we're diving into. We'll look at its connection, or potential connection, to a tiny part of our physical brain. And stick with us. Seriously, watch this until the very end, because the source material we've gathered, well, it might just surprise you with some unexpected links and even practical possibilities.
It really sits at this interesting crossroads, doesn't it? Between inner experience and external investigation.
It really does. Where old traditions talk about inner sight and intuition, we also find modern science looking at brain function in ways that, well, some people think are related. So today, our mission really is to navigate all this complexity. We're using this great collection of sources you brought us.
Right. We've got quite a range. Scientific bits about the pineal gland, discussions from online spiritual groups, insights from Buddhist and yoga traditions.
And even personal stories, right? People sharing their own experiences.
Exactly. And the goal isn't just to define it. We want to sift through all these different viewpoints, pull out the key insights,
So that by the end of this deep dive, you feel genuinely well-informed.
Yeah.
You'll understand the different facets, where the ideas come from, what they might actually mean.
Think of it as your guide. We're cutting through the noise to give you the core understanding, some real aha moments, all based directly on these sources.
Okay, let's dive in. All right, let's start unpacking this idea.
Yeah.
When people talk about the third eye, what are they actually referring to? The sources seem to offer, well, several layers.
They do. It's symbolic, first off. One source we looked at, the third eye. Awakening intuition and higher perception calls it a window to the invisible, like a portal beyond our normal senses.
Beyond sight, hearing, touch, all that.
Right. It lets us perceive things our physical senses just can't register. And symbolically, it's often placed right there between the eyebrows.
That central spot. And it's linked to things like deep intuition, spiritual perception.
Exactly. Seeing past the surface appearances to what's really underneath. That comes up again and again in traditions like Hinduism and Buddhism. It's a big deal.
So it's about seeing the maybe energetic reality, or the true nature of things, not just the physical form.
That's a good way to put it. It's seen as a center for inner wisdom, connection to, higher consciousness or the universe. It's an active center, not just passive.
Okay, but is it purely symbolic? Or is there more to it? One of the Reddit sources had an interesting take, right? About introspection.
Yeah, that was a really grounded interpretation, I thought. It bridges the gap nicely.
Yeah.
This view calls the third eye the eye of introspection.
The eye of introspection. I like that. It feels more, relatable somehow. How does that change how we think about it opening?
Well, it suggests the opening isn't some, magical event. It's an internal shift. It opens when you move past just reacting automatically, past superficial judgments.
So instead of just seeing face value,
you start to perceive what's really real, the underlying reality. It happens through a deeper kind of internal observation, a more conscious discernment. It's still metaphorical, sure, but it points to a real capacity for, better self-awareness.
So less about gaining a brand new sense and more about refining how you use your awareness, turning it inward, deeper.
That's a great way to think about it, yeah. It implies a perception that cuts through all our conditioning, our reactions, so you can engage with reality more directly, seeing truth beyond your own filters.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting and maybe a little controversial for some. This symbolic idea often gets linked to a specific physical part of the brain, the pineal gland.
Yes, that connection comes up a lot, especially in, let's say, New Age circles or some alternative spiritual discussions. Though it's important to note, it's not always accepted in older traditions or mainstream science as a direct one-to-one thing.
Right. But the pineal gland is real, a tiny little thing deep in the brain.
Oh yeah, absolutely real. Pea-sized endocrine gland right in the center behind the forehead between the brain hemispheres. Anatomically, it's in that central zone.
And scientifically, what do we know it does?
Its main job, the one everyone agrees on, is making and releasing melatonin.
The sleep hormone.
Exactly.
Right.
Regulates our sleep-wake cycles, our circadian rhythms. It's super sensitive to light, and darkness makes more melatonin. When it's dark, helps us sleep. And because sleep and light affect our mood, our energy, our brain function.
The pineal gland already influences our mental and emotional states just through that.
Precisely. So even its known function connects it to consciousness, at least in terms of sleep and wakefulness. But some of the sources we looked at suggest it might do more, spiritually speaking.
Ah, the subtle connections. What are they suggesting?
Well, one source, foods that stimulate the pineal gland, gets right into it. It argues the pineal isn't just about melatonin.
Right.
It suggests the gland is especially sensitive not only to light and chemicals, which science agrees on, but also to, and this is the key part, vibrational stimuli.
Vibrational stimuli, like energy frequencies.
That's the idea presented, that the pineal gland might be a crucial physical center for spiritual perception, for picking up subtle information or energies that are outside our usual sensory range.
Wow, so capturing subtle information.
Right.
That directly links the physical gland back to the symbolic idea of seeing the unseen.
It certainly tries to bridge that gap. And this source argues that for the gland to work well like this, as a receiver, it needs to be balanced electrochemically.
Yeah.
And maybe free from things like calcification or toxins.
Which explains why they talk about diet, which we'll get to.
Okay.
But this direct link, pineal gland equals third eye, is that widely accepted?
Not really, no. And it's important, as one of the Reddit sources pointed out, to understand that this kind of literal connection is sometimes criticized, especially by people rooted in older traditions.
Why is that?
They feel that some of the New Age interpretations can distort or really oversimplify the deeper, often metaphorical teachings from places like Buddhism or Hinduism about intuition, insight, or energy centers like the Ajna Chakra.
Ajna chakra. That's the energy center associated with the spot between the eyebrows, right?
Yeah.
Not just the physical gland itself.
Exactly. It's an energy center. So the critique is that focusing too much on the physical gland might miss the deeper, non-physical point of the third eye concept entirely.
Kind of reducing a complex spiritual idea to just biology.
Sort of. The Reddit source mentioned that sometimes these connections involve, well, frankly, nonsensical references to things like pre-scientific alchemy. The eye of introspection idea we talked about earlier, also from Reddit, is a powerful counterpoint. It emphasizes that the core of the third eye might be this inner faculty of awareness, not solely tied to the physical gland, even if the gland plays some role in consciousness.
Okay, so it sounds like the sources show a spectrum, from purely symbolic to a physical gland acting like an antenna, and debate about how literal that connection is.
It's definitely not a simple pineal gland is the third eye. It's way more nuanced. Understanding these different takes, the ancient symbolic, the proposed physical link, the introspection view is really key to grasping the whole picture here.
It really makes you question what seeing truly means, doesn't it? Beyond just using our eyes.
Exactly.
Yep.
Which leads us perfectly into the next big question. If the third eye, however we define it, represents this potential for deeper perception, how do you actually cultivate it?
Okay, so let's shift from defining it to doing something about it. How do the sources say someone might actually work on, opening or developing this inner perception? Meditation seems like a big one.
Oh, absolutely. Meditation comes up consistently. That source, the third eye, awakening intuition and higher perception, describes a very focused technique.
And what's involved in that one?
It's pretty straightforward, actually. You sit comfortably, close your eyes, and then you really focus your attention on that spot between your eyebrows, the third eye spot, or Ajna chakra location.
Okay.
And while you're focusing there, you visualize a colored light. Often indigo or violet, those are the colors usually linked to the center. You might imagine it pulsing or glowing.
How long do they suggest doing that?
The recommendation is maybe 10 to 15 minutes a day. The idea is that this focused attention and visualization helps stimulate that energy center, the Ajna chakra, and that, in turn, deepens your intuition and inner perception.
So it gives your mind a specific place to focus, kind of anchoring the abstract idea.
Exactly. It provides an anchor. Now, there's another major approach mentioned, especially from Zen Buddhism in the Sabodorya Zen source. It's called Zazen, or empty meditation.
Empty meditation.
Yeah.
Sounds very different from visualizing light. How does Zazen fit in?
It is quite different. While you might start by focusing on something simple, like your breath or posture, the ultimate aim of Zazen is to move beyond focusing on specific things or thoughts altogether.
Beyond thoughts. How?
You aim for a state of awareness that's described as empty of purposes. Basically, letting go of judging things as good or bad, letting go of analyzing, planning, that constant inner chatter from the ego.
Empty of purposes.
Yeah.
Like just being purely present without the mind trying to do stuff.
Precisely. The source makes it clear the goal isn't reasoning your way to something. It's about experiencing the moment directly, exactly as it is, without the filter of the self that's always labeling and thinking.
So you notice thoughts and feelings, but you don't grab onto them.
You practice non-attachment. You let them arise and pass without getting tangled up in them or identifying with them. Ah, okay. So focused meditation gives you something specific to concentrate on, while Zazen tries to remove the need for concentration on anything, including the thinking mind itself. Two different routes.
Different paths, yeah, both aiming to shift awareness beyond just the usual thinking patterns. The sources also mention other meditation types too, like guided meditations, using sound like nature sounds, using mantras like Om or Om Mani Padme Hum.
Chanting.
Or even mental projection, like consciously creating a peaceful mental scene to dwell in.
So lots of different ways to still or redirect the mind. There was also a specific Kriya Yoga technique mentioned in one of the Reddit posts, right?
Yes, that user described focusing either your physical eyes or just your internal attention on that spot between the eyebrows while doing specific breathing patterns.
That's the goal there.
The idea is to train your attention, your perception, to work independently from your physical sight, kind of developing a different way of seeing that doesn't rely on your eyes. Wow, consciously trying to uncouple attention from our main sense. Fascinating. Okay, so meditation is clearly key, but then the sources bring in something maybe less expected. Physical stuff like diet.
Right. This is where that source really connects the physical pineal gland theory to practice. It strongly argues that what we eat directly affects the pineal gland.
Not just physically, like giving it nutrients for melatonin.
Not just physically, no, but also energetically. It suggests foods carry specific frequencies that can influence our overall energy state and how sensitive the pineal gland is to subtle vibrations.
Energetic frequencies in food, that's definitely not standard nutritional advice.
No, it shifts the view from food as just fuel to food having the subtler impact. And according to this source, a big part of preparing the pineal gland for subtle perception is detoxifying it. And the body.
Why do they detox?
They see toxic buildup, calcification as things that hinder the gland's sensitivity and function, like static on a radio, maybe.
That's a good analogy for that perspective. So clean out the system first. Does it say what foods to avoid?
It doesn't list specific avoid foods exhaustively, but the strong emphasis on detox heavily implies avoiding things like processed foods, industrial drinks, artificial additives, maybe heavy metals, anything seen as contributing to that static.
Got it. And what about foods that help?
Well, beyond general detox agents, it points to fruits and vegetables overall. Good for health, melatonin regulation, and contributing to what they call the body's higher vibrational field.
Okay, fruits and veggies, anything specific?
Yes, they mention a few natural substances. Maca peruana for supporting the endocrine system and providing stable energy, which is seen as good for consciousness. Then there's raw cacao, the unprocessed kind.
Not just regular chocolate.
Right, raw cacao. It's highlighted for magnesium, tryptophan, other bioactives that are said to stimulate sensory sensitivity and boost well-being neurotransmitters. The idea is it might help create states where you're more open to inner connection and refined perception.
So raw cacao is a tool for subtle sensitivity. Interesting. What else?
Seeds, like sunflower, pumpkin, flax seeds, they're valued for essential fatty acids, especially omega-3s, which we know are good for brain health.
Right.
But this source adds another layer. It says these fats are vital for cell membrane integrity, which they see as crucial for facilitating energetic communication in the body, enhancing the pineal's ability to receive information.
It's directly linking the physical structure of our cells to receiving subtle energy.
Exactly. It bridges physical health and this subtle energy work. The main idea is that a light, natural diet rich in these kinds of foods helps keep the pineal gland active and receptive.
But it's not a magic bullet.
No, the source is clear. Conscious eating is a helpful tool, but it doesn't replace spiritual practices like meditation. It potentiates them. It prepares the body to be more in tune. The Sabodhurya Zen source also touches on this broader idea, referencing Ayurvedic principles of balancing energies for health, suggesting physical harmony supports inner work.
So body and spirit aren't separate pursuits. They support each other. And speaking of integration, yoga also comes up as a path.
Definitely. That Redalic source discussed a study with educators using yoga to integrate body, psyche, spirit, even their environment. A big part of it was exploring the koshas.
The koshas. Can you remind us what those are again?
Sure. In yoga philosophy, the koshas are like 5 layers or sheaths around the true self, the Atman. There's the physical body layer, Annamaya kosha, then the energy layer, Pranamaya kosha, the mental emotional layer, Manomaya kosha, the wisdom intuition layer, Vijnanamaya kosha, and the bliss layer, Anandamaya kosha.
Wow, 5 layers. So yoga works on all of them.
That's the idea. By working through these layers with yoga practices, you're engaging not just your body, but your energy, mind, intuition, and that deeper connection.
And the study found this helped the educators.
Yes, the study reported that using practices like asanas, postures, mudras, hand gestures, pranayamas, breathwork, and yoga nidra, deep relaxation, led to significant personal growth and what they called personal resignification.
Personal resignification. What did that actually mean for them?
It meant they became more familiar with their own spiritual side. They developed a deeper awareness of the connection between their body, mind, and spirit, and felt a greater sense of potential for harmony and transcendence. Yoga gave them practical tools, movement, breath, relaxation, philosophy to expand consciousness and connect with subtler aspects of themselves.
Which ties right back into cultivating inner vision. It's holistic.
Absolutely. So we have meditation to focus the mind, diet to support the body, and yoga to integrate it all. These are the practical pathways the sources lay out.
Okay, so what happens if you actually commit to these? What kinds of experiences might come up? And what about the bumps in the road? The sources get quite real about the journey itself.
Right. Before we jump into those experiences and challenges, I just wanted to mention something quickly. If you're finding this whole exploration of the third eye, the practices, the potential ups and downs, genuinely interesting,
If you're getting something valuable out of this deep dive,
then there's a super simple way you can help us keep making content like this. If you're watching the video version, please just take a second right now to hit that like button and maybe drop a comment below.
yeah, your engagement really matters. Liking and commenting tells the platform, hey, this person likes this kind of stuff. It helps the algorithms understand what you enjoy, and honestly, it makes it much more likely they'll show you similar videos in the future.
It's just a click for you, but it makes a huge difference for us and for getting you more of the content you're looking for.
Absolutely. And hey, while you're there, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And maybe share this video with anyone else you think might be curious about these ideas. We really appreciate the support.
We love digging into these complex topics and trying to make sense of them, and your support lets us keep doing it. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Now, back to the journey. What actually happens when people start down this path? What do the sources say about the experiences? All right, so you're doing the practices, meditating, maybe adjusting your diet, doing yoga. What kind of things do people actually report experiencing as this inner perception starts to, well, open up? The personal accounts, especially on Reddit, seem pretty varied.
They really are. For some, it's very visual, even with their eyes closed. One person described seeing this beautiful violet light really vividly, like a distant flashlight or a laser beam just appearing behind their eyelids.
Well, like an internal light show.
Something like that. Another mentioned seeing purple or violet light in that same area. It seems to be a recurring theme for some.
Seeing light inside.
Yeah.
It feels like a pretty direct link to the inner eye idea.
It's reported that way, yeah, as a kind of inner visual perception. But it's not just visuals, other sensations come up too. Someone shared experiencing this state of total equanimity in meditation. Yeah, like profound stillness, no thoughts passing through, which connects back to that zazen idea of being empty of purposes. Others mention feeling strange physical things, like their head feeling incredibly light or their skin buzzing, feeling charged with some kind of electric current.
Those sound kind of intense, maybe even cool or intriguing experiences. But the sources also warn it's not always pleasant.
Exactly. That's crucial. The journey can also involve challenging, even scary stuff. Some accounts mention seeing scary beings or having nightmarish visions, either in meditation or just in heightened states.
Just seeing scary things, that sounds, well, pretty disturbing.
It could definitely be destabilizing if you're not prepared. Others reported seeing spirits or maybe colors around people outside of meditation, things that might fall under clairvoyance for some, or maybe hallucinations for others.
Yeah, how do you even interpret that?
That's the tricky part. And this is where wisdom from traditions like Zen, mentioned in the Reddit threads, comes in. One user quoted the Zen master Ajahn Chah, who basically said, "Don't get attached to visions or lights." He asked, "What's so good about brightness? My flashlight has that. It cannot help us get rid of our suffering."
That puts it in perspective. The goal isn't the flashy experience itself, pleasant or scary. It's the deeper growth.
Precisely. The experiences might just be temporary side effects or maybe signposts, but they're not the destination. The sources also hint at the subjectivity here. Are these things objectively real, maybe on other planes of existence, as some suggest, or are they just the mind doing interesting things under pressure?
People seem to interpret them differently based on their beliefs.
Very much so. Some strongly feel they're perceiving something real, even if science can't measure it yet. Others lean towards psychological explanations. Discernment seems really key.
Understanding what the experience means, not just having it. And the challenges aren't just mental or visual, right? Physical stuff can happen too.
Oh yeah. Several accounts talk about physical symptoms, often framed as part of an intense healing or clearing process, maybe linked to energy shifts in the body.
Like what kind of symptoms?
Things like nausea, diarrhea, headaches, maybe flu-like feelings. Some people get psychosomatic pain, aches and pains that don't have a clear physical cause, sometimes temporary, sometimes lingering. Vomiting was mentioned too, though less common, seen as a kind of physical purge.
Wow, it sounds like the body can really react strongly.
That's one interpretation. Energy blocks clearing out, manifesting physically. And alongside the physical, emotional symptoms are really common too and can be tough.
Like what?
Increased irritability, feeling agitated, angry, sad, really fatigued. Old emotions bubbling up to the surface is mentioned a lot. One person described this pervasive, not fun or bitter feeling, like a deep dysphoria, or even things they used to enjoy just felt flat or unpleasant.
That sounds incredibly difficult to deal with day to day.
It really can be. The sources stress that while these things can be part of the process, if symptoms are severe or persistent, you need to consider other causes too, underlying physical or mental health issues. Like the Reddit source mentioned checking for IBS if digestive problems are really bad.
So keep a grounded perspective. Don't just assume it's all spiritual purging.
Right. The idea is that the happiness and well-being might come later after the clearing happens and energy flows better, but you need to be sensible.
Okay, so potential experiences, physical reactions, emotional challenges. Beyond those, the Sabadoria Zen source really dives deep into the internal obstacles, the things that block spiritual progress, drawing from Buddhist teachings.
Yeah, it gives a pretty comprehensive list of what they call the shackles that keep us stuck. A big one is sensual desire.
Wanting things through the senses.
Basically, yeah. Seeking happiness and meaning only through gratifying the five senses. If that becomes your main focus, it can turn into an obsession and block you from finding deeper spiritual fulfillment.
Constantly pulled outward by cravings.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What else?
A really fundamental one is the illusion of self, or ego as meta. This is that deep-seated mistaken belief that there's a permanent independent I that's separate from everything else.
Separate from our body, thoughts, feelings, all the changing stuff.
Exactly. We identify with this idea of a fixed me, but the source says that's based on ignorance of how things really are constantly changing, interconnected. And this ignorance is seen as the root cause of suffering.
How so?
Because if you believe in this permanent separate self, you become terrified of it ending. That fuels the fear of death of innovation. You cling to life and everything associated with this illusory self because you think you're going to disappear.
Wow, so the fear of death comes directly from misunderstanding who we are.
That's the view. It's a core affliction, or klesha. Others include doubt, not healthy questioning, but that paralyzing uncertainty about the path, clinging to doubts, not knowing what to let go of. Skeptical doubt that stops you engaging is called a shackle.
Doubt as a barrier, not just a question mark.
Right. Then you have desire, raga, and aversion, dvesha. Desire makes things seem more attractive than they are, leading to craving and actions that create negative karma. Aversion is the opposite, hating or pushing things away. Both are about attachment, wanting or not wanting.
Two sides of the same coin.
Pretty much. The sources also talk about clinging in general, clinging to the path itself as an identity, clinging to outcomes, to stuff, to the image you project, anything that creates rigidity. And then there's sloth and torpor, like mental dullness, no energy for practice, and restlessness, and worry the mind just bouncing all over the place.
That is a serious list of internal roadblocks. So how do you deal with all that? How do you overcome these obstacles?
The Sadhguru Zen source offers several methods. It starts with just recognizing them when they pop up, cultivating wise thought instead of unwise thought, learning to see which thoughts and actions help you and which hold you back.
Self-awareness first, always.
Always. Then practical things. Mental control, watching your mind constantly.
Correct.
Using things like food, clothes, medicine, just for what you need, not indulging wants excessively.
Mindful consumption.
Exactly. Tolerance is huge, learning to endure discomfort, whether it's physical pain in meditation, difficult feelings, or harsh words from others without reacting negatively. Avoidance, wisely staying away from situations or people that are clearly harmful. And removal, actively letting go of negative thoughts and feelings as they arise, not letting them fester.
These sound like skills for life, not just meditation.
They're meant to be lived. But dhyana, deep meditation, is presented as the core practice where you really train these skills intensively. It's where you practice non-reaction, tolerance, and mental control directly.
What about dealing with, say, actual physical pain during long meditation sits?
The advice is to acknowledge it, but gently, consistently bring your attention back to your main focus, like your breath. Don't dwell on the pain. Don't let your mind get lost in it. Just gently redirect. Same with distracting thoughts, especially in that empty meditation.
Let them go.
Let the waves pass. Don't cling, don't analyze, just release. Thoughts are seen as just objects in the mind, not the goal itself. The goal is the awareness behind the thoughts.
That takes serious discipline, detaching like that. What about changing ingrained bad habits fueled by these obstacles?
There's a process outlined for that too. First, recognize the weakness humbly, like a beginner. Second, clearly picture the positive behavior you want. Third, make a conscious plan. Fourth, use willpower and repetition. Fifth, actively resist the old temptation when it comes up. Sixth, keep practicing until the new habit feels automatic.
Sounds almost like standard behavior change techniques.
It has parallels, yeah. But the source stresses it's not just mechanical. It's deeply tied to understanding suffering. It's cause those obstacles, knowing it can end, and following the path to end it. It's about transforming suffering into liberation.
And there's that piece of advice from Reddit, too, about not forcing things.
Yes, a really important point. Embrace fear if it comes up, but don't force an opening or intense practices if you don't feel genuinely ready, if that inner call isn't there. Trust the timing.
Why is forcing it bad?
Pushing too hard out of ego or impatience rather than sincere readiness could potentially lead to psychological issues or energetic imbalances. Some experiences just might not be right for everyone at every stage. Respecting your own intuition seems key.
It paints a picture of a path that's really personal, can be tough, but ultimately rewarding.
Yeah.
Needs patience, discipline, self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's not a quick fix.
No, it's presented as a deep transformation of your whole being, mind, body, spirit, all aimed at deeper awareness and freedom.
And this whole inner journey overcoming obstacles, it must connect to bigger spiritual ideas, right?
Yeah.
Like how does it fit into concepts of self, reality, karma, wisdom?
Absolutely. That's where sources like Sadhguru Zen really broaden the perspective, connecting these individual efforts to a universal framework.
Okay, let's explore those bigger connections. All right, so we've gone from defining the third eye to the practices to the potential experiences and obstacles. Now let's zoom out and connect this to the really big spiritual concepts mentioned in the sources, starting with the nature of self and reality itself.
Right. The Sadhguru Zen source really emphasizes core Buddhist ideas like transience and emptiness, or voidness, vazio, as fundamental. It makes a striking point. The fact that our smaller self, our personality or ego, is transient and empty isn't a bad thing. It's actually a necessary condition for life.
Necessary. How so? And what does empty really mean in this context? Is it like nothingness?
No, the source is very clear. Empty or vazio isn't a vacuum or some scary abyss. It's described more like cosmic consciousness, something that includes everything. Because it is everything, it's already complete, self-sufficient. It doesn't need filling.
So the realization isn't becoming something else, but realizing you are already part of that fundamental reality.
Exactly. The understanding is you are it. You are that underlying nature. It's a huge shift from seeing yourself as this isolated, solid individual.
And suffering comes from not seeing that, from believing we're separate and permanent.
That's the core idea. Believing yourself is fixed, or that things outside you have some permanent independent reality, that's the ignorance that leads to clinging, aversion, and ultimately suffering. Misunderstanding the fluid, interconnected, empty nature of reality is the root problem.
Which leads directly into karma and samsara, the cycle of rebirth.
Precisely. The same source explains how the kleshas, those obstacles we talked about, like ignorance, ego, desire, aversion, fear, act like fuel for our karmas. As long as those kleshas are driving our thoughts and actions, they keep the cycle of suffering and rebirth, samsara, going.
So our inner state, driven by these afflictions, keeps the wheel spinning.
That's the teaching. And karma itself isn't just fate. It starts in the mind as thought. Then it moves to words, then actions. And it's fundamentally linked to the desire to be something or to have something. Actions born from that egoic wanting create binding karma.
Desire, again, playing such a key role in keeping us stuck.
It's central. But importantly, the sources offer a way out. They say that contemplative states, especially deep meditation where the sense of a separate self fades away, don't generate karma in the same binding way.
Actions done from a state of non-self are different.
Yes, actions flowing from pure awareness without egoic attachment don't bind you to the cycle. That's seen as the key to potentially stopping samsara. It's not just what you do, but the state of consciousness you do it from.
That's a really profound distinction.
Yeah.
And the ultimate goal then is nirvana, freedom from the cycle.
Yes. Nirvana means no more return. It's described as ultimate liberation, realizing your oneness with all beings, with the cosmic mind, that same vadzio or void that encompasses everything.
Realizing oneness, connecting the personal journey right back to the universal. And this relates to the concept of dharma.
Dharma is a really rich concept discussed in the source. It's defined in multiple ways, as spiritual or moral law, as your life's mission or purpose, and also as universal knowledge itself.
Universal knowledge, like a cosmic truth database.
Kind of, yeah. The source explicitly links Dharma to the Akashic records, seeing it as this universal archive of all knowledge gained through conscious experience. But you don't access it just through your intellect or your five senses.
How do you access it then?
It requires elevating your consciousness,
Yeah.
developing that subtle sensitivity, intuition, illumination, direct perception, the very things related to cultivating the third eye.
So developing inner vision is basically developing the faculty to perceive dharma.
That's strongly implied. And importantly, Dharma isn't just information to learn, it's wisdom to live. You absorb it by applying it daily, and it fully integrates as the ego diminishes and you start perceiving that universal oneness. You become an expression of Dharma.
And it's not exclusive to Buddhism.
No, the source points out it's a principle found in many Indian traditions and reflected in the teachings of enlightened figures throughout history, even mentioning Jesus as an example. It's seen as a universal guide towards truth.
That really broadens the scope. Are there specific qualities highlighted that help you align with dharma?
Yes, generosity is mentioned as a key spiritual perfection, or paramita. It's the first of 6. It's linked to non-attachment, letting go of clinging, but it's more than just charity.
How so?
It's described as the silent will of the soul to give or give of oneself, a voluntary act done for the sheer pleasure of it, embodying solidarity and that sense of being fundamentally connected to others, not separate.
Giving from a place of oneness, not obligation.
Exactly. It flows naturally from realizing you are it.
Yeah.
And the source specifically says giving your time is the greatest gift because time is finite and precious.
That's a powerful thought. What about something as basic as breathing? Does that have a deeper meaning here?
Absolutely. Breath, called prana, ki, or nous in different contexts, is seen as much more than just biology. It's the medium for the vital essence, the cosmic energy that flows through everything.
So breathing is interacting with the universal life force.
That's the perspective. It's the bridge between physical and energetic. The source explains Reiki, for instance, as combining Rei, divine universal energy, and Ki, material vital energy, to activate energy centers and harmonize with nous, the universal mind. So, conscious breathing practices, pranayama, aren't just exercises, they're tools to work directly with this energy and influence consciousness.
Is a whole new depth to just taking a breath. Lastly, the sources talk about this being an ongoing journey and the value of having guidance.
Yes, the Relic source, talking about the educators doing yoga, emphasizes self-knowledge as continuous. You're always a being in motion, never arriving at some final fixed state. And seeking guidance from qualified people, teachers, mentors who've walked the path is seen as really valuable.
Like having an experienced guide for a challenging expedition.
Exactly. Someone who can share wisdom, help navigate obstacles, offer perspective. The Reddit sources add some practical grounding advice too, focused on just being a better human day to day. practice self-care, do grounding exercises, set healthy boundaries, keep a steady meditation practice, but without getting hung up on expecting specific results.
That grounding seems essential when you're dealing with subtle energies and cosmic ideas.
It keeps things rooted in reality and well-being. And the Sabadoria Zen source reminds us to listen to our own inner guidance, our intuition, as well as universal forces, while still respecting all genuine spiritual paths as different expressions of understanding.
Trust your inner compass, but stay open. Wow, this deep dive has covered so much ground, from the tiny pineal gland to vast cosmic concepts, practical diets to challenging inner obstacles.
It really shows that the third eye concept, however you slice it, metaphor, physical potential, energy center, points towards this possibility of expanded awareness, a deeper way of connecting with ourselves and everything else.
And it's definitely clear from the sources that it's a path requiring commitment, patience, facing challenges, but offering potentially huge transformation.
It's a rich, complex picture, blending ancient wisdom, practical steps, and even areas where science is still catching up.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what have we really uncovered? We've explored the whole landscape of the third eye, its symbolism as inner perception, the eye of introspection, and its debated links to the physical pineal gland.
We looked at the practical ways sources suggest cultivating this different meditation styles, the potential role of conscious eating, the integrating power of yoga working through those kosha layers.
And we didn't shy away from the journey itself, the varied experiences people report, from light phenomena to tougher visions, the physical and emotional clearings, and those deep internal obstacles like ego and desire that the traditions say we need to work through.
Right. And finally, we connected it all back to those bigger spiritual ideas. The nature of self and emptiness, karma and samsara, the universal wisdom of dharma, the meaning of the void, and the power of practices like generosity and conscious breath.
Our real hope is that this exploration of the sources is giving you a solid, nuanced understanding of this topic. Maybe spark some aha moments, offer different perspectives without you feeling overwhelmed. What part resonated most with you?
It's definitely a lot to absorb, spanning such a wide range of ideas.
It really is. And as we finish, here's a thought to maybe chew on based on everything we've discussed today. If the third eye, in whatever way we understand it, truly represents a capacity within us to see reality more clearly beyond just our physical senses and mental chatter, what kind of world could we create, or what kind of lives could we lead if more of us actively cultivated that inner vision?
And maybe what aspects of how we live now, our constant focus outward, our attachment to material things, maybe even our fear of looking within, what might be holding us back from that deeper perception?
It's a question that makes you think, not just about yourself, but about our collective path forward.
Definitely invites reflection.
Indeed. And hey, if you found this deep dive valuable and want to keep exploring topics like this, remember that super easy thing we mentioned? Please, right now, hit that like button on the video and leave a comment below.
Seriously, tell us what stood out, what surprised you, any thoughts you have. Your likes and comments genuinely help. They signal to the platform that you value this content, making it way more likely they'll recommend similar deep dives to you.
And of course, please subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with friends, family, anyone curious about the third eye, consciousness, or spiritual growth. Your support truly means the world and lets us keep bringing you these explorations.
Thank you so much for joining us today. The journey into understanding is always ongoing.
It absolutely is. And if you're ready to continue your exploration right now, you should see 2 more videos popping up on your screen. Click on one of those to keep the deep dive going.